Welcome to Chilling Chatroom, your gateway to the supernatural and spine-chilling tales from the darkest corners of the internet. Join us as we delve into the realm of paranormal encounters, mysterious phenomena, and bone-chilling creepypastas that will leave you questioning what lurks beyond the veil of reality. About 2 weeks ago, I was sitting down at home in the living room. For clarity, I don't live alone and I have 2 cats as well. I felt a gush of air pass by my right arm, and I thought it was one of my cats, but they were elsewhere entirely. I was also alone in the room. Another week passes by. I am sleeping in bed when I feel the weight of something push onto me twice. Felt like one of my cats, but again, they were not there. The pressure and weight felt like someone was trying to wake me up by my feet, but I was already awake and under the covers. When I flipped my cover to see what it was, nothing was there. I am the only one who sleeps in my room as well. Fast forward to tonight, I was on my phone when I heard some light walking / fidgeting with something. I thought one of the cats slipped into my room, so I immediately got up and both of them were out in the living room when I checked to see where they were. I got creeped out and told my sibling about it, and they wanted to check the room next to mine, which someone else also sleeps in, but they went out tonight. For reference, their room has always gave off negative energy. So my sibling then checks underneath the door just to see if there's anything. The lights are off, but as soon they open the door and go in, there's a night lamp that is turned on. So then, to not feel lonely and even more creeped out, we decide to let the cats in that room. They love hanging out in there. They did not want to stay in there at all. So we leave the room light on and close the door. Sibling heads back into their room and I go into the bathroom when I hear what sounds just like my sibling. So I call out and ask if they said something, but they didn't. I was too creeped out by now, but I had one more thing to get from my room, so my sibling waited for me, and as I grabbed what I needed, I hear shuffling coming from the next door and head out. I was left so creeped out by this. Forgot to mention, this morning I heard a baby cry twice in the room next to mine with no one being in there. So this all started when I was around the age 14, 12 years ago. My younger brother and I decided to swap rooms. From the first night I slept in my new room, weird things started happening. I usually sleep through the night, but I started abruptly waking up at exactly 2:17 a.m. on the dot every single night. Each time I would wake up, I always felt that sixth sense that something / someone was watching me from the right corner of my bedroom. Always. I've felt good energy from spirits before when family members have passed, but this was something different. It seemed invasive, intimidating, and I was freaked out that whatever this was could see me, but I couldn't see it. What's weird was when I slept at my mom's house, I never woke up at 2:17. Only at my dad's house. Then small occurrences started to happen. I was staying at my mom's when my dad informed me my alarm clock radio turned on by itself in the middle of the night at full volume, and woke the whole family up. I hadn't been to his house in days. When I was home again, my little brother and I would play in the driveway. He had to go to the bathroom, so he went back in the house. But all of a sudden a tennis ball came flying out of the garage. He was nowhere in the garage. One night I heard paper shuffling on my desk even though the window was closed. A different morning I watched my dad's sunglasses on the kitchen counter move several inches by themselves when I was the only one awake. My older sibling began to believe me when random lights would come on by themselves in the house. What's strange is we caught on to the pattern that paranormal activity would happen mostly when my little brother wasn't home. Fast forward to when the house was empty since my parents were on vacation. My grandma would check in on the house with my siblings, and each time they'd go back a new light would be on. The last night before my parents came back from vacation, she triple-checked all the lights were off. My parents were surprised when they arrived home to find every light on in the house. My grandma swore our house was cursed and refused to visit anymore. My stepmom then began to believe my paranormal stories. My older brother and I heard footsteps running up and down the stairs together one night when my younger brother was at a sleepover. It really freaked us out. At one point it even got dangerous. The gas stove burners had been turned on by themselves on low heat overnight. If any of this had been a prank previously, I can guarantee no one in our family would mess around like that, putting our lives in danger. My dad finally began to believe me about 8 months into this haunting when all the kids weren't home one night and he heard whispering in the hallway. He freaked out and grabbed his knife thinking there were robbers. When he opened the door, he found my TV had turned on by itself and people were talking on the TV with low volume. The last thing to ever happen was one night I had come out of the shower and I went to change in my room. The mirror was foggy from the steam. My older brother knocked on my door and asked what I wrote on the mirror. Confused, I went to look, and we both sat there in awe as letters began to show up in front of us slowly. The whole family gathered around to decipher it. It said, "I am watching _____." The last word we couldn't figure out. Our family didn't know how to justify what we saw. After that day, the occurrences stopped. I stopped waking up every night. A year later, my dad called me and said he found something really weird on my brother's birth certificate. He asked, "Didn't you used to say that Nick, younger bro, was somehow connected to the haunted stuff that happened in the house?" After confirming, he casually mentioned that my younger brother was born at exactly 2:17 a.m. I was speechless. This was no coincidence. From that day on, I have had so many more questions than answers. 2 years ago, I had a psychic medium meeting, and after sharing my story, she said how the entity targeted me because I acknowledged it. It was no longer in the house. She confidently said an entity like that is attached to an object or a person that has since left the house. I definitely think something was attached to my younger brother. Beyond the Grave, a bone-chilling exploration of the Cooper house, where echoes of tragedy and terror linger in the shadows. Back in the early 2000s, my friends and I were into ghost hunting for a few months. We would search out and go to the most haunted places we could find around our area. We went to many places, but only one yielded something that still creeps me out to this day. We'll start off by telling how this house is haunted. This house was in Chino, California, demolished now, and in Chino there is also a men's prison. Back in the 80s, I believe, this guy, what his name is, escaped the prison and found a home to hide out in. Back in the day, this was a rural community, mostly cows with houses few and far between. The house he broke into had a family living inside. Mother, father, and 2 kids, boy and girl. In a nutshell, he cut the boy's throat, killed the girl in front of the parents, then murdered both of the parents, one in front of the other. He stayed there for a week or 2 before he left or got caught. I don't remember which. Anyway, fast forward to our ghost hunting trip. We eventually pull up to this house, of course in the middle of the night, because why not? The house, even though this was years later, was still there, but all fenced up, boarded up windows, and crime sense tape with signs saying to keep out. Graffiti all over the house, typical. My friends and I found our way through the fence and into the backyard area where a window had already had the boards removed and the window busted out. A couple of us had self-defense tools in case we ran into any unsavory people, and also a camera to take pictures. There were 5 of us. We each went through the broken window one by one and waited for each other until we were all through. The inside of the house was completely empty except for smashed family pictures still on the walls. Graffiti also donned the inside of the house. The most creepy things were written on the walls and ceiling of the living room and rooms. Things like, "Death is here. Do not enter," etc. The window we went through led us right into the middle of the living room. Right behind that was the kitchen. All the pantry doors were open. As we walked through the house, we all formed a sort of conga line with me in the back. We walked around the living room first, and then the kitchen. The entire time my buddy is taking random snapshots with his camera. The same camera we have been using for all of our different haunted locations, mind you. As the lead person goes into the hallway, we stop and look into the hallway closet to confirm a part of the story. The escaped prisoner had gruesomely sliced the lit boy's throat in an attempt to kill him. Little did he know that boy crawled into the hall closet and held his throat, kept it from bleeding out, all while he watched the rest of his family get murdered right in front of him. When I opened that closet door that night, I would say about 70% of that carpet on the floor was soaked with old blood. It was definitely true. We continued along the hallway, and every room had super creepy and very eerie messages that left my skin crawling. We finally made it to the master bedroom, where the parents were tied up and made to watch their child die and ultimately them be murdered in cold blood. Again, the carpet had old blood splattered all over, and that entire room just had this overall sense of darkness to it. Like a cold pressure. It was off-putting to say the least. As you entered that room, there was a light switch to the right on the wall. Right next to it was the creepiest message of them all. It gave me the tingles. I don't remember exactly what it said, but something like, "Do not lock anyone alone in this room. Do not do it. This is not a joke. Please, for the love of God, don't." Needless to say, that creeped us all out. It didn't take us too long to explore the entire house. It wasn't that big. As we made our way out, I was still in the back of the line, and my buddy with the camera was still taking the occasional photo. It's the middle of the night and cold out still. Pitch black in this house except for the one flashlight we remembered to bring. Then, just as we were leaving the hallway, I heard a little girl moan as clear as day. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up and again gave me that tingly feeling. I specifically remember this next part. I remember I was going to ask the person in front of me if they heard that little girl moan, but then I didn't say it like that because I didn't want to influence their answer. So I asked just like this, "Did you hear something?" I remember asking it exactly that way. The person in front of me turned their head in slow motion with eyes wide open and said to me, "I just heard a little girl moan." We both stood there in disbelief, shocked. There are no other houses around. This place was on acres of farmland. We were absolutely the only ones in the house. It scared us to death. I don't know how to explain it well, but it sounded sad and with anguish, like it came from a deep /dark place. After hastily fleeing the Cooper house, one friend sustained a cut, while another, a towering figure, was paralyzed with fear. His terrified reaction, likening the house to a dwelling of evil, marked the end of our haunted expeditions. Later, reviewing the photos, eerie orbs pervaded those taken at the house, a phenomenon that still baffles us. Years later, a newspaper headline brought closure as the escaped convict met justice, yet the lingering memories of that night remain unsettling. Additionally, the fate of the young boy, survivor of the gruesome events, continues to haunt my thoughts. As we come to our last story, brace yourself for a journey into the eerie unknown, where reality blurs with the inexplicable, and childhood memories take on a chilling twist. When I was younger, probably age 7 or 8, my parents brought my brother, my cousins, and I up to the White Mountains. There were a lot of us, so finding a place to fit everyone was difficult. We were also rather poor, so we couldn't stay at a nice hotel or rent a cottage. We decided to stay at this motel, and let me tell you, it was weird. From what I can remember, it was old, like 70s old, and it wasn't too clean. There were 2 beds and 1 bathroom being shared by 6 people. My parents took a bed, and my older brother and older cousin slept on the floor in sleeping bags. My cousin and I shared a bed. One night I woke up and everything was weird. My cousin who was sleeping next to me had her eyes wide open, and it looked like someone scalped her. The walls looked like they were covered in blood, and the room was a completely different color. I sat up and scanned the room. My other cousin was in a weird-ass pose, and my parents were all gored up, too. It was like a shitty creepypasta in there. The bathroom light was on, but it was like a scene from Stranger Things. The light was dim and ominous. I also saw faces everywhere. Best way I could describe it is like shadow faces. I lay back down and closed my eyes. I waited a few minutes, and when I opened them, everything was back to normal. I went back to bed and forgot about it until right now. Until next time, may the spirits guide you and the mysteries of the paranormal continue to intrigue.